just to kind of look at where you can add something that makes you in high demand and low supply, like no one else is able to do what you're doing. That's going to make you a massive addition to that company. They're going to say, wow, like, since you've applied this knowledge or this thing to what we're doing, we're now tenfold bigger than we were. And that makes you kind of a crucial key to their success, and you're going to reap the benefits from that.
All right, we are back once again on the Pencil Kings podcast. So yeah, we got Allan on the line, and he's done just a truckload of stuff.
Dude, just pimp yourself. What's some of the craziest things that you've achieved? And can you name drop a few projects that you've worked on? Just so I want people to realize like what kind of a rock star I was able to get on the podcast today, because you've done a ton of stuff.
I've worked on everything from, since I was watching this movie, The Flight, more recently The Equalizer. I've worked on Transformers, The Last Airbender, Priest 2012, Daybreakers, Star Trek 2, Metallica's movie. Been a lot actually, and then also supervised a lot of game cinematics, stuff like that. I did Destiny, one of Microsoft's big games, and also helped out Blur Studio with Halo, their new cinematics for that, working in FX. I'm also working on the other biggest game in the world at the moment, which I can't mention what it is, but if you Google the biggest game out at the moment, then or coming out, then it'll be pretty obvious. But I mean, yeah, I've worked on a lot of feature films, a lot of different projects. It's been really, really cool just to kind of be tied to these. And yeah, I mean, getting to work with a lot of cool directors from Michael Bay to Rob Zemeckis and other people too has been really cool as well. I haven't really kept track of this, but there's been a lot of Emmy and Oscar nominations as well as a couple of wins. For me personally though, just getting to interact and help a lot of people more recently, especially with their careers, and see a lot of other artists around me grow. I mean, for me, that's been kind of really fulfilling.
All right. I feel like my brain just exploded. In the Pencil Kings community, I know there's a lot of people, they're looking to get their first studio job. And what's really fascinating that I found about you is how quickly you were able to rise to the top of your industry. And I don't know, I mean, I could take a stab in the dark, but from your standpoint, how did you get started? Because I think by the time we met, you were already kind of a brand name in the visual effects industry, but you were like 19.
Yeah. For me, initially, in the beginning of my career, we didn't have all the resources that we have now. So I kind of think these days it'd be a lot easier to do what I've done. But I initially started out just like anyone else. I was really into art. I loved what I did. I think one thing that I had going for me was that I was always really resourceful. I didn't have money, but I was always good at when I needed to have an opportunity, I could create that opportunity. So I used to paint and draw all my own artwork and try and find people even on the street to kind of sell that stuff to, and my mother's friends, anyone I could, to make money so that we could get by. Another one thing I did was always, if I really needed to make cash to buy, let's say, a computer so I could start getting into computer art, I would just go get a blanket and go outside with all my toys, put them all on the blanket, put up a sign saying garage sale, and just start selling everything I had. So, it's kind of silly to look back at now, but those were, at least for me, the only way I could actually get ahead was to make my own money one way or another and buy a crappy 286 computer to teach myself and do all that. Beyond that, though, one thing I did very early on in my life, and I still think that this is something that I still do to this day, is that I would always set really unbelievable goals. And for me, the big one was, was 14 years old and I wanted to go work in Hollywood doing Hollywood film. And with no internet or anything at the time, that was, such a unattainable goal for me to have. And like anyone I mentioned it to is just like, yeah, like go get a real job. For me, I just kind of set that goal of, okay, well, here's my unbelievable goal. And then I, looked at where I'm at the moment and where I wanted to be and started to deconstruct that goal. I think a really key step is just be able to look at anything and just kind of deconstruct it bit by bit into, okay, do I need a piece of paper to validate what I'm doing, like a degree or whatever it's going to be? Or do I need to get the education? Do I need to build the contacts? Do I need the experience? Do I need to actually figure out how the hell to actually do this stuff? And then from there, be like, okay, well, how do I get these things? What do I need to do? Do I need to go and find people, to mentor me, or whatever the steps are going to be, and like breaking it down further and further and further until it actually is like attainable steps that you can do one at a time and get slowly but surely to that goal.
So did you actually do that? Like you have somewhere, or maybe you've lost it, but there was originally a piece of paper, like this is the Hollywood success roadmap from a 14-year-old boy's point of view?
I wish I still had it, but that's exactly what I gave a talk in Vegas last year about how to build a name for yourself in this industry and how to do a lot of stuff, fast track your career. That was one of the key points I've always referred to as like your vector. And I think the key two things you need is to figure out where you're currently at right now. And I think that's kind of the hard thing to do, is actually really take a subjective look at yourself and be like, oh, okay, these are my flaws. These are the things I need to work on. But also, just like having your origin, you need also a vector, a direction. And by figuring out your endpoint, you can kind of deconstruct that roadmap. And for me, that was it. Like, I literally just wrote down my end goal and my you are here, and I began to break down every single thing. And I'm about to do that again right now, actually in the next few weeks with my next 5 years of plans. But I do believe that's like the one thing that I had done that I could point that to a lot of the success that I had.
That's fairly clear. I mean, the idea of breaking a complex task down into simple steps. I mean, there's that saying that I've heard recently, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. Allows you to conceptualize this huge task where you don't really know what the first step is, but it's like, okay, just take the first step. But once you had your roadmap, what did you actually start doing?
Everything. I think it kind of fell into like 4 or 5 different categories. So, I mean, for me at the time, I thought, okay, I need to get a piece of paper, like an education, which I believe these days it isn't as true. Being an artist, you show what you can do. You don't need a piece of paper to tell you that you can do this. I think learning, like studying and learning is great. You need that, but not for the piece of paper. It's more for your own benefit. But for me at the time, that's one thing I thought I needed. So I went and enrolled in a college of sorts in Australia. And I was too young to get in, but I showed them all my work that I had done. And they were like, okay, well, we'll make an exception. Like you can come use the labs, but you won't be able to actually do the course curriculum. So that was one thing I did. I also decided I needed to go out there and network and find people. And again, being 14, not many friends outside of my, school friends. I'd already quit school at that point. And, so for me to make contacts, I needed to kind of find people in this industry. And again, it was so young back then that no one even knew what 3D was. If you said, I do 3D animation, Toy Story had just come out. So that was another step, was like, I need to find the right people. And going to the labs for me, being 14, I had to be pretty aggressive with meeting people. And some of the people in those classes I'm still friends with today. That was another thing, was the networking. I need to actually figure out how to do this stuff on my own. And that meant just brute force. I worked day and night. Like I did a lot of like 3D rendering. So I literally would just go to sleep when I hit render for the night. And I'd set my alarm for the estimated time it would take to finish the render. So go to sleep at 6 a.m., get up at 10 a.m. and get back to it. So, just bit by bit, every single task I figured I needed, I would deconstruct further and further and further until I did have that kind of reverse roadmap. And I would just tackle 3, 4, 5 things at a time and just kind of make those parts of my life and slowly but surely get through that elephant.
Getting into the school where you have access to those computers, that was a huge step, because I remember how slow my computer was at home. And when I met you, I was like, how could he work so fast? But I think if you're able to test a lot of things, having a render farm, then you can learn what you're able to do more quickly. But what was that first breakthrough moment that you saw? For me, for example, I know it was having a chance to work on a feature film. Then my resume had X-Men 2 on it. Once I had that notch on my belt, then everything else seemed to come a lot easier. How did that look for you?
I mean, I always look back to that roadmap as being like the key thing I owe a lot to, but moving forward from there, I mean, I was persistent about building a portfolio to show off what I could do. And just like anyone, and I think people don't talk about this too much, but I had to go through a lot of rejection and failure to get to where I was. It wasn't just like, okay, I'm good at what I do and I should go start working now. I mean, I was really young. For a start, I targeted a video game company in the only one in my city, one of the very few in my country, in Australia. And I was persistently approaching them with my work. And the guy who was head of 3D at the time just kept like rejecting me over and over and over. And I even had, like, it's kind of funny to have those should I give up moments when I'm only like, I think 15 or 14 at the time. But I was like, going through rejection after rejection and being like, okay, I'm going to go start from scratch, do it all over again and keep trying. And it got to a point where I felt like, okay, I feel like I'm in a good place. I'm going to apply for some jobs elsewhere, in the world that might be a bit more my fit. And I applied for 2 different jobs. One was at a place called Ritual in Texas, who were doing these video games, like similar to Quake at the time. The other one was for this company called Team Fortress Software, which got acquired by Valve Software. They looked at my work, hired me, and I ended up working on Half-Life. And that was my first big break as in like a proper job, I think. That's something I could call a job. And to have it be Half-Life, which was at the time like a very big video game, one of the biggest out there. That was really big. I will say that it wasn't a career-breaking move. Like I did it and I felt success for a moment, but after that contract was done, I went back into kind of like a year of trying to find work. And it's kind of funny because when I first started in 3D, I bought a book called Inside 3D Studio 3 for DOS. I remember there's like 5 or 6 color printout pages in there. And there was one that was a robot. And it was by this guy named Steven Seffield. It wasn't until I worked on that Half-Life project, I was talking to him and I'm like, why does that name sound familiar? And lo and behold, it was actually a printout, like one of his bits of artwork was in the book. So that was really cool just to kind of be like, to kind of nerd out with him and build that friendship. He eventually went on to work in commercials and showed my work to this place called Ambience, which was one of the top 3 studios in Australia. And they were like, yeah, like you clearly have a good understanding of like live action interaction, CG effects, all that good stuff, and offered me a job at their studio. And I'll just say, like, I didn't take the job right away just because I was still relatively young, but that ended up being, I think, the big moment for me. When I went there, I got to surround myself with so many amazingly talented people, and I really kind of felt like finally, after all of that work and some successes, mainly a lot of misses, I finally kind of hit gold and found the job that kind of shotgunned my career.
One of the important things is the importance of like these connections, that you don't look at it as a connection like this is the person that's going to break me into this industry. But you just never know. Like people can open doors or introduce you to somebody else and you have no idea where this stuff is going to go. Mm-hmm. But if you're always like being super introverted and just inside and not showing your work to people and not trying to learn from other people, then these opportunities are never going to happen.
I completely agree. You got to be in it to win it. I hate when people say, that was an opportunity of a lifetime. Well, that was my one moment, because I honestly think the people who are really successful, they don't just see opportunities, they make opportunities. And at the very least, you should be able to recognize every single time an opportunity. I'll sidetrack for a moment. My girlfriend hates me talking about her because I reference her a lot, but like she's been going through a lot of career stuff recently. And so I use her as a great reference, but she's been wanting to get into the art world, do a lot of professional stuff. And she emailed a studio she really respected and loved their work, and just emailed them to ask them a few questions. And it wasn't like she was applying for a job, but she showed her work to them and they were like, oh, this is great. Gave her some advice and said, we're actually going to be putting out some ads soon for artists. She didn't really see the sign there. And I said, well, why don't you apply for that job? And so she decided, okay, I'm going to, go and email them and say, can I apply for that position that you're advertising for? And for me, I'm like, screw that. Like, they haven't put out the ad yet. Don't apply for the job. Say, if you want, like, I want to send you my work and officially see if I'm able to take that position. Like, maybe it'll save you having to put out the advertisement. The whole point is that by you eliminating, like entering the side door into a company rather than going through the same kind of routine that everyone else does, you can eliminate that competition that typically you're going to have, where you've got to go and apply through the traditional kind of means that everyone else does and kind of blend in with the crowd. If you're able to find a creative way in, like emailing someone and showing your work and then saying, hey, are you looking for artists? That way you're creating your own opportunity. And I think that's just the most key vital thing you can have, is to be able to look at anything as an opportunity, to go out and meet people and then realize like, hey, by the way, I work in this field. Can I show my stuff? Or here's my contact details. You never know. They might say like, well, we actually need people right now. Or I love your charisma. Like, maybe we can find something for you to do at our company.
Say you're a senior artist somewhere and you realize that you have a hole in your team and you need to find somebody to fill this role, you will then probably go and have a meeting with somebody else and say, hey, we need somebody to do this. Then that will eventually go to HR. HR will create something. Maybe if you're at a huge company, maybe then it goes to the marketing or advertising department where they create a job ad. So there's all these intermediate steps. But if you just can have a relationship with that person, and that relationship could literally be like what Allan was saying and emailing them out of the blue saying, hey, are you looking for artists? I'm a blank. And if you just hit the right person at the right time, you've just saved them so much work and made their life so much easier by just being proactive and reaching out.
I was having this discussion yesterday with a few guys from Activision. Most of the time, the jobs that you get, it's all about timing. It wasn't about, oh, you were the best candidate. It was more about like, yeah, I just applied and coincidentally, they were just about to start looking for someone. It was a perfect fit.
I have something more. Something none of your dry as dust professors and routine-ridden doctors have. Love. Devotion, passion.
So let's transition now to talk a little bit about what you're doing now and how you're helping artists. Not necessarily a career change, but maybe it's a career addition.
It's kind of nuts. I have always enjoyed kind of helping other people and trying to mentor people where I can, and I've done a lot of training. Like I always had that philosophy when I was starting out, where most people were very protective about the work that they did. Like I remember having a conversation once with one guy that he did this image in Photoshop, and I was like, wow, that's awesome. How'd you do it? And he kind of looked at me like, I'm not going to tell you. That was always kind of the thing that rattled around my head, that like I didn't like how people didn't share. And like these days, like you cannot go on Google without tutorials everywhere, and it's awesome. But for me at the time, like I kind of made that vow to share everything I did. And I was kind of one of those people who was leading the way as in how to do certain things, how to figure things out. So it was always more in the troubleshooting and problem solving aspect of what I did. So I was constantly putting out training, articles, whatever I could to show people. And it was more for saving someone the time of having to figure it out themselves. I've done that my entire career. I also, more in the past like 2 or 3 years, started to finally embrace it, because I've never wanted to be that tutorial guy. I always wanted my artwork to speak for itself, not the contributions I did. And so it's only been recently I've kind of started to realize, like, you know what, I like helping people, and it's not something to be embarrassed by. I don't know. I think that to me has been a recent kind of aha moment. Since then, I've kind of been doing that a lot more. It's funny, Independence Day, I actually had a meeting the other day with the VFX supervisor, Volker Engel. He got to see all my work, and he's like, yeah, I love all your work. And it made me think back to when I was 14 years old and like really inspired by all these films. And here I am sitting in an office with one of the guys who's responsible for most of those films. I've gotten now to kind of help a lot of people with their goals and mentor a lot of artists and kind of help them with a lot of sticking points they've had from some artists who are mid or senior level and they want to step up to being supervisors, and how do they go about that? And they've been trying and kind of get shut down every time. So I've sat with them and tried out different things, and they've gone out and applied what we've talked about, and instantly they've gotten their big promotion to supervising a big movie. And same thing goes with guys who couldn't get in the industry and have been trying so hard, and again, just kind of showing a different way to do it, and instantly they've gotten jobs. And it's just been so cool to kind of see other people kind of make some progress with their careers. Like I said, I feel comfortable with mine, and now I kind of feel like I want to start focusing on others and helping them kind of get over their big hurdles.
The program that you came out with, that was teaching people to be more technical artists. And is it having that technical ability the thing that's enabling people to move forward, or is it more of mindset issues? Is it art problems? I mean, what do you see as the biggest hangups for people not being able to move forward?
Well, whatever industry you're in, whatever position you're in, it's good to learn what's near you. So if you're a 2D artist, maybe you need to learn a bit about what the producer does. Maybe you need to, let's say if there's 2D and 3D, then learn a bit about the 3D. But whatever it's going to be, it's just more about understanding everyone else's areas too. And the more you do that, the more you're going to be able to kind of fit into the machine better, to be able to know whatever you're doing, how it's going to get handled by the next person, so you can make their life easier by being able to prepare it better, to do it more efficiently. At the same time, if you need things from another artist, knowing what they do, you're able to communicate better as to how they prepare their piece to hand over to you. The more you understand about the business, the more you're going to be able to step up and lead or manage teams, do your own productions, whatever it's going to be. And I think that's about kind of getting out of your comfort zone and growing as an artist is to start to expand and learn that. And when it comes to the technical stuff, like learning to program, stuff like that, I know animators who had never coded before in their life, and I never saw myself as one either. I quit school in grade 9. I didn't know math. But, you know, a lot of these people who've gone and through and done the course, they've found within like a week, they're like, wow, this is actually really easy. Like, you don't need math to program. You don't need to do all this crazy stuff. It's more about kind of automating a lot of what you do and making your life easier. I look at like programs like Maya, 3D Studio Max, even if you look at Photoshop with the actions, I mean, all you're doing is you're going through a lot of processes over and over and over. And if you can actually rewrite or rebuild a lot of those tools to be what you wanted, in other words, if you were to get Maya and actually make it the tool that was designed for you, not for everyone, then imagine how fast you could work if like literally you're clicking buttons and it's doing like everything that you needed to do right off the bat. For me, that is more something that's going to make you stand out as being more efficient, more faster, more better, because you're not tied down. If you're able to just to kind of look at where you can add something that makes you in high demand and low supply, like no one else is able to do what you're doing, that's going to make you a massive addition to that company. They're going to say, wow, like, you know, since you've applied this knowledge or this thing to what we're doing, we're now tenfold bigger than we were. And that makes you kind of a crucial key to their success, and you're going to reap the benefits from that.
To become in high demand and low supply, what are some of your thoughts around that just in general for artists?
It kind of came left field. Like I was writing the article yesterday and I actually mentioned a book I read recently, which was Brian Tracy, I believe. He is the inventor of Ugg boots, which are a massive industry over here. It's $1 billion empire of sheepskin boots. And initially he came up with that because he came to California to look for a big idea that he could take back to Australia. Whatever is popular here, which is in high demand, he could go back to Australia, which is in low supply. And what I thought was really amazing was that he came here and realized there's actually a high demand, low supply situation here, which was there was no industry at all for sheepskin boots. So going to video games, I look at like how they have this big process that they have to go through before they can then see their artwork in a game. Being able to look at that and say like, okay, like you guys are spending all this downtime in between your art and then seeing the result, and that huge disconnect is going to stop your flow. Like, and that's a big thing with all artists is we have our flow. We get in the zone, and that's when we really get our results. And by being able to identify like a problem like that and say, okay, well, what if we automated this to the point where we do it in our in our art package, hit a button, and then it shows up in the game. Suddenly you gain that feedback and your productivity doesn't go up like 2 or 3 times, it goes up 10 times. Just find ways that you can work more effectively. And even if it's more like the client review process or just anything that you can identify like, hey, this is something that I do really well, or even if you identify with other people something that they do really well that they're not even aware they're doing, it's more about just identifying where there is something that can become like a high in demand thing. You can look for industries that may have a high demand for a certain type of artist, let's say matte painters or illustrators, whatever it's going to be, but you find a city that has a huge demand but not a very high supply. And that way, if you go there, you're positioning yourself in a high demand industry. So you can charge the prices you want, you can do what you want. Put yourself in a position that people come to you because you're able to bring something to the table that there isn't anyone else around that can really match that.
Man, I love that so much. And I think that being willing to move to where the job is or the opportunity is, that's actually a huge opportunity that not everybody has. You know, like if you're young and hungry and you don't have any dependents, or even if you do have dependents, you can probably find a way to make this work.
The more you can analyze something and look at all the ways that you can create those opportunities, that's where you're going to succeed. And this applies to everything.
Why don't you just take the last couple minutes? I know you've got your program, and I think it's really cool, and I've been seeing people have success with it on Facebook. Floor is yours. Hit us.
Oh, man. I've got my podcast, which for me has been probably the greatest thing I've ever done, just because I didn't expect it to become what it's become. And I was talking with the guys from Industrial Light and Magic the other day. Like, one of the guys there mentioned that everyone there listens to it, and it's just like, what? That's awesome. Like, I had dinner with a lot of the guys from Autodesk, own Maya and Max and all those tools. You know, I'm actually interviewing a few of the managers of the company in the coming weeks. It's just been great to kind of feel connected in a way that I feel is a bit more legitimate. I love training, you know, how to push the buttons and do all that stuff, but to go more kind of, more into the core of what's going to give you more opportunity. I mean, that's been really fantastic. So you can visit my website, allanmckay.com. I've now had about 300-400 people go through the course, and guys who've either never worked in the industry before and now are going to Ubisoft and id Software, ILM, like all these big studios. It's been really rewarding just to be like, yes, like you guys are kicking butt, and just to kind of be on calls with them and to kind of see closely where they're succeeding has been awesome. And again, like, and I've always been jealous of your lifestyle, because you personally have really nailed it in terms of appreciating life and loving what you do, and not really letting work take over your life too much. You kind of find the perfect balance, which, you know, we all love what we do. And I had this conversation with Volker Engel, that VFX soup, the other day, about, you know, I do what I do not for any other reason than it's my passion, it's my drive, it's what I love. And, you know, at the same time, like, we all have other passions in our life, our families and other people we care about. And, you know, we need to kind of equally spread those apart and have that life that we can look back and enjoy. And you definitely have that. You've got that, the chance to travel and to work on what you enjoy and to push yourself and be passionate about what you do. Yeah, I think you've got like a perfect balance for how you kind of see a lot of it.
Thanks, man. So the best place to find out everything about you is just to go to your blog, allanmckay.com.
Mm-hmm.
That's ALLANMCKAY.com. We'll also have this recording up on Pencil Kings as well, with the show notes and links and maybe some goodies. We'll see about if we can get some goodies out of Allan. And that'll be at pencilkings.com/ALLAN-MCKAY. Thank you so much, Allan, for sharing your story, all these insights. We covered a ton of things. Let me just wrap it up here. Creating a life plan, like breaking down everything that you want to do and then creating all the steps that you need to do that. Networking like crazy. Don't be afraid to reach out to anybody. Ask them questions. I mean, Allan's really busy, but I'm sure you could ask him a question, and if it's a really good one, he'll definitely get back to you.
Absolutely.
I'm here for you as well. Finding that opportunity where you have special talents and maybe traveling or moving somewhere else where you are in high demand and there's a low supply for that special thing that you do. So thank you again so much, Allan. I'm sure there's more than I just covered there, but I look forward to catching up with you in person sometime.
My pleasure, man. Thank you.
Demands patience, skill, years of practice.
Ah, you talk like a fool. I would trade a century of practice for an ounce of inspiration.
If you'd like to know more about what we do, head on over to pencilkings.com, where we're offering professional training for artists all over the world at a price that anyone can afford. See you there.